Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. I just picked up my 2024 Grail watch. What am I going to do for the rest of the year? I've been talking about buying a Grand Seiko for ages now. I even mentioned it in my State of the Collection video in December last year, and I showed you, I pointed at exactly the watch that I was going to buy, exactly the watch in the box today. Now you saw the pop-up. This video is sponsored by buyee.jp, the Japanese proxy buying service. I have bought a ton of Japanese and JDM watches through Buyee over the last 4 or 5 years, including my Sarb, the Green Tea Pressage, the Seiko Mini Turtle, and my Citizen Chronomaster, the watch that I dubbed the Grand Seiko Killer. Now Buyee didn't pay for this watch, but they did give me a voucher towards the cost. They give me a couple of vouchers every time I make a video mentioning their service. Sometimes I save the vouchers and roll them together for a big purchase. That's what I did with the Citizen. That's what I've done with this one. So why this Grand Seiko, and why a Grand Seiko at all if I've already got a Citizen that I dubbed the Grand Seiko Killer? Before I answer those questions, allow me to briefly tell you about buyee.jp's service. If you haven't used a proxy buying service before, it effectively allows you to shop as if you were in Japan. You've got access to Yahoo Auctions, Yahoo Marketplace, Rakuten and Mercari. You find the product you want, you pay Buyee, they buy the item for you, it's shipped to them, they make sure it is what you ordered, and then they ship it on to you. As you can see, there are no shortage of Grand Seikos available, both new and used, some at outstanding prices. So the choice is great, as are the prices, but if I may mention some moans and niggles, the website could definitely be more user-friendly, and there is a process to follow, so it's not quite as easy as buying from a JDM exporter, but I think the price and the choice more than makes up for that. I'll leave a link in the description with a discount code for 10% off your first order from Buyee. Alright, enough waffle, let's get into the box. Grand Seiko. What a 180 I have done on this brand. I remember scoffing at a friend a few years ago who suggested I look at GS. I said, why on earth would I spend that much money for a watch with the word Seiko on the dial? And yet, here I am. Admittedly, that was a few years ago. I think it was about 8 years ago. Grand Seiko have done a lot to differentiate, to split the two brands. They've stopped double branding the watches for a start, which really helped. I've got to handle a lot of Grand Seikos since then, and I've been personally on a bit of a Quartz mission for the last 18 months or so, first with the purchase of my Citizen Chronomaster, and now the GS. I promise I'm only going to refer to the Chronomaster about another 12 times over the course of the video. What GS did I buy? Well, you know what GS that I bought. I bought the one I said I would buy, the one I've been eyeing up for years, the SBGN011, and my God, it's gorgeous. And what did I pay for all that gorgeousness? Well, I paid 2,600 odd Pacific pesos. I heard somebody use that term the other day and it gave me a chuckle. The Aussie dollar has been in the bin for the last couple of years, making it really difficult for those down under when purchasing from overseas. Now, admittedly, I also had to pay a bit of import tax on top of that, so buying used from Japan won't necessarily work for everyone. It worked for me though because I had those Buyee vouchers saved up. I could have bought a brand new one here in Australia for 4,400. I'm sure I could have haggled a bit of money off that in certain outlets, but like I said, I had the vouchers, so I bought mine Japanese used. And Japanese used doesn't mean the same thing as used does in the rest of the world. This thing was basically mint. There was a note on the listing saying there might be a scratch under certain circumstances on the bezel at 12 o'clock. It's like a first day scratch. Honestly, the thing was beautiful. S-grade condition. I've now bought a number of my more expensive watches used, and I have to say, not only do you get a good saving, but you've taken that whole first day scratch thing out of the process. You no longer have to worry about it because somebody else has done it for you. So what I'm going to do today is tell you why I bought this particular model. I will run through some dimensions and specifications, etc. I'll also come back, like I did with the Citizen Chronomaster, and do a 1-year review on this one because it's a long-termer. It's a watch that I am determined to keep. I know I'm going to keep this one. And these Quartz watches make such fantastic dailies or rotation pieces. They're watches that you want to keep long-term because they're always there for you. And they are remarkably accurate. So why did I buy this champagne-dialed SBGN011 then? Well, here is a slightly younger Jody wearing an iced-out Rolex one of a number of watches I got to try on at Sydney's Watch Fest in September 2019. Crucially, also that day, I tried this on, the SBGN 007. Now this was a limited edition Australian only version of essentially the watch that I just bought. It's got the same case, the same movement, the same bracelet, etc, etc. I put it on and it fitted me like a glove, and I thought, if I ever do buy a Grand Seiko, this is the one that I'm going to buy. Unfortunately, these 007s sold quickly and they now command a premium. They do this 009 blue dial version, but I'm not really into blue dials. So I waited a couple of years and GS released these two. The 11, the champagne dial on the left, and a black dial version on the right. Now I have plenty of black dial watches in my collection, but no champagne dial watches until now. That's what led me to this particular model. I guess the dimensions and how this watch wears is also a big factor today. So what are they? Just under 40mm eye measure at 39.8mm in diameter, 12.2mm thick with a 46.8mm lug to lug. But look at that side profile. Look at how that curves. I have added a few scratches over the last 6 weeks or so myself. Drilled lugs as well. If you can imagine a Seiko Sarb but slightly bigger, that's how this one wears. I find a lot of the Grand Seikos, particularly the mechanicals, just too thick, just too chunky. This one, spot on. 20mm between the lugs, it does taper down to about 18 at the clasp. Sized up for me, 140 grams. Fairly chunky considering it's not a diver. 100 meters of water resistance from a push-pull only crown that is double domed sapphire crystal. And the movement, again another big factor, is the 9F86 Quartz by Grand Seiko, which you can't see because of a very attractive screw-on stainless steel caseback with the Grand Seiko lion medallion in the centre. But that's just as well because quartz movements are ugly, right? Wrong. That is a 9F86 by Grand Seiko. That is not an ugly quartz movement. That's actually very attractive. I wouldn't mind if they had put a display case back on it. The 9F is a legend. They've been making these for 30 years. Believe it or not, they have 25-year service intervals, so I assume some of the first 9Fs haven't seen service yet. Another reason why these watches are fantastic daily drivers. How accurate is a 9F86, Jody, I hear you ask? Good question. Well, I've only had this one a month, but I started a watch check app running on it on the 31st of December. As you can see, it has gained 0.3 of a second over the course of a month. That's on target for +4 seconds a year. This one is rated to plus or minus 10 seconds a year, but that's the maximum. You can often get sharper tolerances than that. Sure, you can occasionally hit the jackpot with a cheap quartz watch and also get tolerances like that, but they're guaranteed when you spend the money on one of these. Also guaranteed is beautiful Grand Seiko standard Zaratsu polishing. It looks fantastic and it feels magnificent to the touch as well. But do bear in mind, if you are going to run one of these as a daily, which is what they're for, it will pick up scuffs and scratches more readily than it would if it was brushed. The bracelet is all brushed though, and it's okay. Perhaps not as nice as the rest of the watch. The clasp is pretty basic. It looks good, but no micro adjustments whatsoever. They do provide a couple of half links, but you're not going to get a great fit necessarily, and it is quite heavy at 140 grams as noted. And in another little flashback to the Seiko Sarb, you've got a bit of a gap there, just like the Seiko Sarb, its little brother. I'm not going to swap it out for a leather strap or something. I'm going to keep it on the bracelet, but yeah, they're known for their standard of finishing, their beautiful dial and hands, but not necessarily for their bracelets. Let's look at the dial and hands then. My goodness, the hands really make this watch. They are incredibly well machined. They look so sharp. They look like little swords just waiting to slice bits of you if they weren't contained behind that piece of sapphire crystal. And the sapphire crystal itself is stunning. Incredible clarity. The Japanese do sapphires better than anyone, and that goes for Casio's Oceanus range. It also goes for my Citizen Chronomaster and also this Grand Seiko. Fabulous, fabulous piece of crystal. The indices are all applied, again multifaceted, high polished surfaces abound. They reflect and catch the light beautifully. The dial surface itself, the champagne dial, has a sunburst effect to it. It's mild under most circumstances, a little more pronounced under direct sunlight, and Grand Seiko, the GS is applied, whereas Grand Seiko in that slightly Gothic script is printed on underneath. GMT also printed on above the index at 6. Now, they haven't gone for the fixed bezel with GMT markings on this particular range. They do that in other watches, Grand Seiko, but I like this one. I like those odds printed on the dial itself. I think a GMT should be a secondary feature of a watch, and it certainly is the secondary feature on this watch. But again, that blue GMT hand is another reason I purchased this one. Catch it in the right light and it pops. Overall, subtle, classy, refined, understated, yet really quite luxurious looking. And believe me when I tell you that it feels luxurious on wrist as well. Super comfortable, it hugs the wrist, no protrusion from the case back either, it feels slim, but that weight, the 140 grams, just gives it an extra little bit of heft. You feel like you spent a little bit of money on the watch because you have spent a little bit of money on the watch. Legibility, nah, not really. Yeah, I thought the legibility on my Citizen Chronomaster was bad until I got this one on wrist. Silver on champagne, I kind of knew what I was getting into. If that is important to you, then maybe look at the 013, which has silver against a black dial with a red GMT hand, all of which pop more than this one does. So then let's finish today by bringing in the literal elephant in the room. It has been sitting just to the right off camera since I started recording. It is, of course, my Citizen Chronomaster. Why did I just buy one of these when I already had one of these? They are physically quite similar and philosophically quite similar. They're both top-end Japanese quartz, high accuracy quartz as well. Well, they are a little bit different though. The Citizen is titanium, super light, super comfortable. It's eco-drive, it will never need a battery, whereas I will be swapping out the battery in the Grand Seiko every 3 years. And this has lume on the dial and hand, something the Grand Seiko does not have. That's my argument and I'm sticking to it. The Grand Seiko is also a little bit dressier and does have that GMT complication. They're not quite the same. I think there's more than enough room in my watch box, my top box for both of them. And you know what? They will both be tempting me when I'm picking a watch because they'll both be exactly the right time, which is more than I can say for a lot of my autos. There is a lot to be said for picking up a decent quartz piece. Every collection, I think, should have one, perhaps even two. So there you have it. Well done for making it all the way to the back end of the video. I've still got no idea what I'm going to do for the rest of the year, considering that I picked up my Grail watch so early. While you're here, why not check out my review of the Citizen Chronomaster, or check out my review of Gary from Birmingham's 9F quartz that I looked at a couple of years ago. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.